Imagine this: on one side, a billionaire enjoying life aboard a luxury yacht, claiming they've found happiness; on the other, a family struggling to make ends meet, finding moments of joy around the dinner table. Which of these scenarios holds the secret to happiness? And what does it mean when people say, money can't buy happiness? Is it an undeniable truth, or just a comforting lie for those who can't afford more? In this video, we'll explore the age-old debate: can money buy happiness? Or is the phrase simply comfort for the broke? We'll dive into real-life examples, stories of wealthy individuals living fulfilling lives, and poor families struggling to find joy. We'll look at what science, culture, and philosophy say about the connection between money and happiness. By the end, you'll have the tools to decide for yourself: is it true or just comfort? Money can't buy happiness, or so they say. But if that's true, why do people chase it so relentlessly? Why does it seem to solve so many problems? And more importantly, if you're broke and struggling, is it fair to be told that money doesn't matter? Or is this phrase just a way to soften the harsh reality of financial hardship? In this video, we'll trace the roots of this saying, examine studies that link money to happiness, explore cultural and social perspectives, personal stories that challenge or validate the idea, what philosophy and spiritual teachings say about it, and practical steps to find true happiness. We'll see that while money may not guarantee happiness, its role in our lives is far more complex than a simple phrase can capture. The saying money can't buy happiness has roots in ancient philosophy and religion. Aristotle, one of history's greatest thinkers, believed that happiness didn't come from wealth but from living a virtuous, balanced life. Buddha went further, teaching that attachment to material possessions leads to suffering. His path to enlightenment was one of detachment and inner peace. Even in medieval times, the wealthiest kings often turned to monks and spiritual leaders to find meaning, suggesting that no amount of gold could fill the void within. Religious teachings across cultures echo a similar message. In Christianity, the Bible warns against the dangers of wealth, suggesting that it can be a barrier to spiritual fulfillment. In Islam, wealth is described as fleeting temporary adornments that don't define one's true worth. These teachings suggest that happiness lies not in what you own, but in how you live your life. Over time, the idea that money can't buy happiness has evolved. In the modern world, it's often used as a piece of wisdom, a reminder not to place too much value on material things. But in an era of wealth inequality and consumerism, some question whether the phrase still holds weight, or if it's simply a way to comfort those who can't afford more. While history and religion offer us timeless wisdom, the modern world is driven by data. So, what does science reveal about the connection between money and happiness? Studies conducted by psychologists and economists have consistently found a happiness threshold. In the United States, for example, the magic number seems to be around $75,000 per year. This income level is enough to cover basic needs: housing, food, healthcare, and leaves room for occasional luxuries. Beyond this point, additional income has diminishing returns on happiness. But why does this happen? The answer lies in how we adapt. Once basic needs are met, the joy of extra wealth fades as people adjust to their new standard of living. Science also shows that how we spend our money matters more than how much we have. People who invest in experiences like traveling, learning, or bonding with loved ones report greater happiness than those who focus on material goods. Unlike possessions, which lose their novelty, experiences create memories and strengthen relationships. And the good news? Experiences don't always have to cost much, making them accessible even for those on tight budgets. But for many people, financial stress overshadows everything. Imagine Maria, a single mother working 2 jobs to keep her family afloat. For her, happiness isn't about luxury, it's about survival. Science tells us that financial insecurity, whether it's debt, unemployment, or unexpected expenses, is one of the biggest barriers to happiness. In contrast, having a safety net like savings or a stable income can drastically reduce anxiety and open the door to joy. While money isn't everything, its absence can take a toll on mental health. Studies reveal that financial security reduces stress and allows people to focus on things that truly matter: family, personal growth, and hobbies. But does this mean money guarantees happiness? Not exactly. Even the wealthiest individuals face challenges that money can't solve: loneliness, lack of purpose, or health issues. Consider two real-world examples. Sarah, a teacher earning a modest income, saves for a yearly family vacation. She says these moments bring her more joy than any possession. On the other hand, billionaire philanthropists like Bill Gates find happiness in using their wealth to create lasting change. From fighting diseases to improving education, both stories show that happiness isn't about how much you have, it's about how you use it. Finally, there's the paradox of choice. Wealth often brings more options, but having too many choices can lead to decision fatigue and regret. Meanwhile, simplicity, embracing fewer meaningful options, often leads to greater satisfaction. This is one reason why some wealthy people seek minimalist lifestyles despite their abundance. Science gives us a foundation, but happiness isn't a one-size-fits-all concept. Culture and society shape how we view wealth and what it means to live a happy life. In a world of glaring wealth inequality, money and the happiness it supposedly brings can feel vastly different depending on where you stand. For those living in poverty, the phrase "money can't buy happiness" can sound dismissive. After all, money might not buy happiness, but it can buy food, shelter, and healthcare essentials many people are struggling to afford. Meanwhile, for the rich, the phrase often feels like a luxury, a philosophical debate rather than a pressing reality. This divide raises an important question. Can happiness be truly universal when inequality is so stark? Our perception of money and happiness is deeply influenced by culture. In Japan, for instance, happiness is often tied to simplicity and mindfulness. The concept of ikigai, or having a purpose, drives fulfillment beyond wealth. In contrast, Western cultures, like the United States, often associate happiness with consumption. The more you buy, the happier you're expected to be, a cycle that can lead to materialism and dissatisfaction. Meanwhile, in places like Scandinavia, happiness is rooted in social support and work-life balance, rather than wealth or possessions. These cultural differences remind us that the value of money depends on the society we live in. Materialism and minimalism represent two extremes of how people approach wealth and happiness. Materialism argues that happiness comes from acquiring possessions, cars, designer clothes, gadgets. But research shows that the joy of material goods often fades quickly, leaving people wanting more. Minimalism, on the other hand, teaches that happiness lies in simplicity, owning less, but living more. For many, this philosophy brings peace of mind, especially in a world overwhelmed by consumerism. In today's digital age, social media amplifies the role of money and happiness. Platforms like Instagram and TikTok showcase the lifestyles of the rich and famous, creating a constant cycle of comparison. Seeing others' luxury vacations and designer wardrobes can lead to feelings of inadequacy, even if we're perfectly content with our lives offline. This phenomenon reminds us that happiness isn't just about money, it's about perspective. The grass may seem greener on someone else's feed, but their reality might not be as perfect as it seems. So far, we've seen how culture and society influence our perceptions of wealth and happiness, but the most powerful insights often come from individual experiences. In the next chapter, we'll explore real-life examples of both joy and despair across wealth and poverty. Let's start with Warren Buffett, one of the richest men in the world. Despite his enormous wealth, Buffett has lived in the same house for decades, eats at fast food chains, and avoids the glitz of Wall Street. Buffett attributes his happiness to meaningful work, close friendships, and living a life of simplicity. For him, money is a tool, not a source of joy. His story suggests that wealth can bring happiness when it's paired with purpose and gratitude. Another inspiring example is Mackenzie Scott. Following her divorce from Jeff Bezos, Scott chose to give away billions of dollars to causes she deeply cares about. She has said that the joy of seeing her wealth improve lives has brought her immense fulfillment. Her story shows that happiness often comes not from what we keep, but from what we give. Anthony Bourdain was a world-renowned chef and storyteller, traveling the globe and living a life many could only dream of. Yet, despite his success, Bourdain struggled with inner demons and ultimately took his own life. His tragic story reminds us that wealth and success can't always fix deeper emotional or mental struggles. Even with the world at his fingertips, happiness eluded him. Consider the story of Christina Onassis, heiress to a multi-billion-dollar fortune. Despite her wealth, Christina described feeling isolated and trapped by her family's legacy. She struggled to form genuine relationships, always questioning whether people valued her for herself or her fortune. Christina's life was a stark reminder that money can't buy emotional security or love. Let's turn to Ravi, a farmer in rural India. With unpredictable weather and rising debt, Ravi struggles to provide for his family. The weight of financial instability impacts every aspect of their lives, from education to health. For families like Ravi's, happiness often takes a backseat to survival. Their story underscores how lack of money can limit opportunities and create ongoing stress. In urban centers across the world, homelessness paints a heartbreaking picture. Chris, a former construction worker, lost his home after a medical emergency wiped out his savings. For Chris, happiness is a distant concept. Each day is a fight to find food, warmth, and dignity. His story reminds us that money, while not everything, provides the foundation for a stable and fulfilling life. Yet, even in poverty, moments of joy emerge. In a rural African village, families find happiness in community gatherings, shared meals, and celebrations. Though financial resources are limited, the bonds of family and community bring emotional richness that money alone can't provide. Similarly, consider Fatima, a refugee who fled her home with nothing but her children and hope for a better future. Though life in the camp is hard, Fatima finds happiness in small victories. Her children's laughter, a shared meal, or the kindness of strangers. Her story reveals that even in dire circumstances, happiness can be found in resilience and gratitude. What can we learn from these stories? Happiness is deeply personal, shaped by circumstances, relationships, and mindset. For the wealthy, it's often about finding purpose and avoiding the traps of excess. For the poor, it's about meeting basic needs and cherishing small joys. Money, while important, is only one part of a much larger equation. Stories from the rich and poor teach us that happiness depends on more than just money. But what's the deeper meaning of happiness? Let's look to philosophy and spirituality for answers. Aristotle, the ancient Greek philosopher, believed happiness wasn't about fleeting pleasure or material wealth. He called true happiness eudaimonia, a state of flourishing achieved through virtue, purpose, and self-improvement. For Aristotle, happiness wasn't something you could buy. It was something you cultivated by living a meaningful, balanced life. Buddha's teachings emphasize detachment from material possessions as the key to happiness. According to Buddhism, clinging to wealth creates suffering, while letting go brings freedom and peace. This philosophy reminds us that happiness is an internal state, not something we can acquire externally. Christianity also teaches that happiness comes from generosity and love, not material possessions. The Bible encourages believers to share their wealth and care for the less fortunate. The joy of giving often surpasses the joy of receiving. In Islam, happiness is tied to gratitude, balance, and helping others. Wealth is seen as a blessing, but also a responsibility to improve the lives of others. This perspective reminds us that while money can play a role in happiness, it's how we use it, and the gratitude we feel that truly matters. Philosophy and spirituality converge on one key point: happiness comes from within. While money can provide comfort and security, true fulfillment lies in purpose, gratitude, and meaningful connections. This balance reminds us that happiness is as much about the soul as it is about the wallet. Philosophy and spirituality show us that happiness is deeply personal. But what practical steps can we take to create joy in our everyday lives, whether we're wealthy or broke? Let's explore. First, we need to reframe how we think about money. While money can't directly buy happiness, financial security is essential for peace of mind. Start by focusing on the basics: saving for emergencies, managing debt, and living within your means. These steps can reduce financial stress and free up mental energy for things that truly bring joy. Next, be intentional about how you spend your money. Research shows that spending on experiences like travel, hobbies, or quality time with loved ones brings more lasting happiness than material possessions. The key is to focus on what truly enriches your life, rather than chasing fleeting trends. Gratitude is one of the most powerful tools for creating happiness. Studies show that regularly reflecting on what you're thankful for, no matter how small, can boost your mood and overall well-being. Try keeping a gratitude journal. Each day, write down 3 things you're grateful for. This simple habit can shift your focus from what you lack to what you already have. Simplicity is another path to happiness. By decluttering your life and focusing on what truly matters, relationships, purpose, and health, you can find joy in the essentials. Remember, happiness isn't about how much you own, but how much you value what you have. Another key ingredient to happiness is connection. Studies consistently show that strong relationships with family and friends are one of the greatest predictors of long-term happiness. Make time for the people you care about. Shared experiences and meaningful conversations can bring more joy than any luxury purchase. Building connections doesn't stop with family and close friends. Joining a community, whether through volunteering, hobbies, or shared interests, can expand your sense of belonging and fulfillment. Purpose is a cornerstone of happiness, whether it's through creative pursuits, learning new skills, or giving back to others. Finding something that lights you up can bring profound joy. Ask yourself, what makes you feel most alive? Whatever the answer, make time for it. Helping others is one of the most reliable ways to find meaning and happiness. Studies show that giving, whether it's time, money, or support, activates parts of the brain associated with pleasure. As the saying goes, in helping others, we help ourselves. Finally, happiness often comes from accepting what you can't control. Life is unpredictable, and while money can solve many problems, it can't shield us from every challenge. By practicing mindfulness and focusing on the present moment, you can cultivate a sense of peace regardless of your circumstances. These practical steps show that happiness is within reach, whether you're rich or broke. But where does this leave us in answering the big question, can money buy happiness? We've explored every angle of this timeless debate, from science and culture to philosophy and real-life examples. The truth? Money plays a role in happiness, but only to an extent. Once our basic needs are met, true happiness comes from within. Gratitude, purpose, relationships, and resilience. So, can money buy happiness? Not entirely. But it's also true that without money, happiness can feel out of reach. Ultimately, the phrase, money can't buy happiness, is both a truth and a comfort. A reminder that while wealth matters, it's not the whole story. Happiness is a choice, a journey, and most importantly, a reflection of how we live our lives. What do you think? Does money buy happiness, or is it just comfort for the broke? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Wisdom Tooth for more thought-provoking content. Thanks for watching. And remember, happiness is within your reach, no matter your bank balance.